can't tell you why I chose to do that, but I started doing drugs again. And this time we started selling them. And it was really enticing because, we'd been poor for so long. We had struggled for so long. And all of a sudden we had money. We had money to buy groceries. We had money to pay our rent, our electric bill. Like it was nice. It was nice to have that life. Plus, you basically get free drugs because, you get it at a discount when you buy in bulk, just like Sam's Club.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, the more you buy, the cheaper they are. So if you buy them, you spend this large amount, and then you sell them, then you get, you basically get to support your habit basically for free. Although it's not really for free because you could have made more money if you weren't doing your own supply, but that's kind of how you look at it as an addict. And things they got worse and worse and worse. Our house just started falling apart. I didn't have the ability to focus, to clean. I could barely even take my kids to the doctor. Like all I cared about was getting high and doing tweaker shit. And at one point, my husband was out of town, and he calls me up and he says, "Hey, somebody wants to buy something. I've met this guy before. You've never met him, but he's cool. Can you go ahead and take care of this for me since I'm out of town?" He drove all the way here from Northwest Arkansas. So I was like, okay, which I normally didn't deal with that aspect of it. But I was like, okay, I knew how to do that. The guy came in. My kids were in the living room. I put my kids in the bedroom, and I did the deal. And I remember in hindsight, and this is another thing about drugs, is they block your spiritual intuition. They block your discernment. So, but looking back now, like I remember telling a friend, my spidey senses were tingling. I could feel something was off, but I just thought it was nervousness because I didn't know this guy. And just a few months after that, I'll never forget the day, September 15th, 2015, my house was raided. All three of my kids were there. We had been up probably for a couple of days, and I was in like this little shop. I was doing a tweaker project. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember looking up, and all of a sudden there were cops in the room that I was in, and I'm like, what the fuck? And so my husband was getting ready to go take our four-wheeler. We lived by the river bottoms here in Fort Smith. If you're from this area, you'll know what that means. So it was on the north side, and we could drive just right down the street, and we could access some trails by the river bottoms. And so he was getting ready to go do that. And I was just, waiting to wake the kids up and start getting the kids ready for school. And my husband, right before he leaves, he said he saw an SUV turn down our street, and then he saw another one. And so he ran inside, and he got our drugs, and he flushed them down the toilet because he knew they were coming for us. And so they got me in handcuffs. I didn't even see my husband. He was gone before they took me out of the room that I was in. I didn't know what happened to him. I didn't know if he had left, or I didn't know anything until later on. My kids were still asleep inside of the house. Even they rammed the door open and all of that. My kids slept through all of it. They woke up at like a normal time, and I was standing in the front yard in handcuffs, just a cop standing by me. My daughter comes out. My Jasmine, at the time, she was probably 6 or 7, and she goes to hug me, and then she realizes that I have handcuffs on. My arms are handcuffed behind my back, and she's like, "Mommy, what's going on?" She was scared. And I said, "Mommy's in big trouble, baby. I don't know what's going to happen, but you're probably not going to see me for a long time." And the other kids woke up. Peyton was only 18 months old at the time, just a baby. She was running around and laughing, and the kids were trying to keep up with her. And I told the cops, I said, if you take the cuffs off, I can help you take care of her. I can help them. I said, I promise you, I won't run away. I won't try to run. And I got, oh God, the whole time they were going through my house, it just sounded like they were just throwing shit everywhere, just digging through everything inside. But I sat on the front porch with my kids, and we read books, and we looked at pictures, and I got a really beautiful time with them to calm them. And like how the hell I held it together, I don't even know, because I knew I was in big trouble. I knew it. And I begged the officer, please don't call DHS. My mom is a really good person, and she'll take my kids. Please let me call my mom. And this is another thing I'll never forget. He said, I can't do that, because if you get out, then you'll be able to get your kids right back, and you don't deserve that. And, he was right. I didn't deserve it. I was not the mother that I could be. I was not. I mean, my kids were basically taken care of. They were loved. I didn't abuse them, but they were neglected. Our house was filthy. It was not good. It was not good. So, love is not enough in that type of situation, although that's what I lied to myself and told myself that it was. Well, they're loved, they have clean clothes, I get them to school and all of those things. But when DHS got there, so my kids had bug bites all over them. I guess we had gotten bed bugs, and I actually didn't realize it. I thought they were just mosquito bites. And so that looked really bad. And they just talked to me for a little while, and then they're like, well, it's time to go. And I felt like the lady, the social worker, I felt like she could see me, like underneath the drug addict. I felt like she could see me, and I felt that she did have compassion. And she said, it's okay, it's time for us to go. And I said, I packed my kids up, and I thought maybe I was going with them. Maybe they needed to ask me more questions or what. I wasn't sure. And after we packed them up and they were in, I said, I'm not going with you guys, am I? And she was like, no, honey, no. And so, she ended up leaving. I didn't actually say goodbye to my kids, which I found out later that was really hard for them, because they thought I was coming with them. But they were taken, the older two were taken to group homes. And then the youngest was put in a foster home. And I got to the jail, and I was just so numb. I was in shock. I couldn't say anything. I got in the holding cell, and I put my knees up like this, and then I just put my head down like this. And I just sat there for hours and hours and hours, just waiting for somebody to come. And they booked me in around midnight, and I went to my cell. I got a sheet to lay on the floor, and a sheet to cover up with. I don't even think I was given a pillow or anything else. They didn't have anything. And that's when it kicked in, and I just started crying and crying and crying, because I was like, oh my God, I could not believe it. I could not believe it. Although I didn't feel like I didn't deserve to be there. I knew that I did. I knew that I did, but my kids didn't deserve what they were going through. And that was the hardest part for me was, I knew what it was like in foster care. I had been there. It's hard. It's hard. Some people get lucky, and there are good foster families, but a lot of them are very abusive. And I didn't know what was happening to my kids. And so in that moment, I prayed, and I just said, God, I will devote my life to you. Please just make sure my kids are okay. Please take care of my kids. And I knew that God heard me, because my bunkie, my cellmate, she couldn't speak English, but she heard me crying that night. And the next day, She gave me a piece of paper with the Lord's Prayer on it. She copied it out of the English Bible for me and gave that to me. And that gave me hope. I knew that God was with me, and I knew that God was, he was going to work it for the good. And I didn't even know about that scripture yet. I started studying my Bible, reading, and my mom got custody of my kids 2 months later. And after that, I could breathe. It was easy, there was some trauma for my son. I don't really want to talk about that because that's his story, but I was given, I had a social worker come and visit me in the jail, and she told me what happened. And, so there was a little bit of trauma, but he's okay now. But so for 2 years, almost 2 years, it was 1 month shy of 2 years, I was incarcerated. I spent some time in the county jail, and then I got transferred to Aliceville, Alabama. So I was on a federal indictment, conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine. And I don't know why they always do the conspiracy. They had the evidence, the guy that I sold to, that my spidey senses were tingling, he was an undercover agent. So my husband had multiple transactions selling to that guy, and I had one transaction selling to that guy. And we had to wait almost a year for a court date. And I was praying that I would just get probation. I hadn't been in trouble in my adult life, and I felt like I had learned my lesson. And even my husband, he was like, let me do the time. Like, just let her go so she can take care of the kids. But it didn't work out that way. They gave me 30 months, and they gave my husband 60. And honestly, like, prison, like the jail, awful. The people that run that place should be ashamed of themselves, because they treat you like dog shit, worse than dog shit. I mean, they do not see you as a human being. You're the scum of the earth, and they treat you like that. And I made some mistakes, and I had the addiction get the best of me, but deep down, I'm still me. I'm still a good person, a lover of animals and people, and but I just, during that time, I just focused on learning the Bible and sharing my story, and I just focused on being a light in that very dark place. And I impacted a lot of people, even though I barely, I barely had the knowledge. And, people would want to come up to me wanting to do Bible study with me. I'm like, well, I don't really know the Bible, but we can learn it together,
Right.
And there was just experience after experience where God was like, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. You're going to get through this. I'm with you. Your kids are okay. You're going to get through this. And I did. And I made some beautiful connections when I got to prison, even in the jail. But in the jail, people were kind of revolving. Once you get to prison, people are there more long term. So I made some beautiful connections, and I had some women that really felt like family to me, like sisters that had my back and that loved me, and I loved them. And, we just really connected, and I'm so grateful for that. And then I had access to church and like Bible studies with other Christians, and that was really helpful. But I had a lot of time to think about who I wanted to be, the type of wife. And I would pray. I would lead prayer circles, and I would pray, God, help us be the women that you want us to be. Help us be the mom that you want us to be, the wife that you want us to be. And I just had a lot of time to think, like, what do I want my life to look like? I want to own a house. I want to have a good job. I want to take care of my kids. I don't want my kids to have to worry about anything. And I got out of prison in August of 2017. And, I'd like to say that was the end of my story with the addiction, but it wasn't. I didn't go back to meth, but so I was out in 2017. Casey got out in 2020. That same year, we bought a house. That same year, I also ended up getting a job at Tacos for Life as a manager. And that's when the alcohol drinking started.